Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Well, the holidays are here, and with that comes a lot of joy, a lot of excitement, but also some depression and sometimes anxiety. So many different situations because they're social situations, dealing with people, family, or being isolated during the holidays. We're going to talk with an amazing mental health counselor and coach at Healthy Counseling Center. He's back with us. He's got lots of great insight, lots of different modalities to help you out with all of that. Dr. Ray Smith is here. Welcome back, Ray. How are you?
Well, I'm doing well, Steve. Thanks for doing this.
Oh, well, thank you for being here to talk about something that's really important that impacts a lot of us. And sometimes we don't even think about it, but the anticipation of the holidays, what goes into that? Worrying about presents. There's so many different things, right?
Right. Well, and you're broadcasting from the business capital of the world, the annual office party. And am I going to be able to handle the other people there? Is my gift going to be adequate? Can I move and small talk with everybody that I need to? Or do I need to be on guard? The holidays are supposed to be joyful anticipation. I'm going to be with grandchildren this weekend. I will see them joyfully opening up presents and hearing a lot of giggles. But the isolation part, the person that you are mentioning, okay, so if you're all alone and you don't have a Jimmy Stewart movie or a Hallmark movie that is typical of your Christmas, then is it the holiday blues? Is it Christmas depression? Is it anxious? Am I ever going to measure up? Is the family ever going to be functionals where we can go and have a good time and there won't be substance abuse issues or there won't be conflicts? I was just talking with a young father today, and the conflict with his immature in-laws, it makes him reticent to do anything over the holidays. I mean, they're gracious and wonderful people. He brought me chocolates and a loaf of homemade bread that was still warm. I mean,
Wow.
they've got that Christmas spirit in them, but they are afraid of what will happen if they get together. And afraid is probably too strong. They may be afraid of getting hurt, but their anxiety, their concerns are well founded because in the past they've had such negative experiences. So what we want to talk about today are ways to handle the holiday. Well, even Elvis had a blue Christmas, and he could have had anything he wanted, I suppose. So we want to talk about handling emotions during the holidays in more realistic ways. We don't have to compete with the Joneses, like Chevy Chase movie of decorating for Christmas. That
Sure.
Is that what you're anxious about? Are you going to have more lights than your neighbor? I mean, we can laugh and think some of those things are silly. On the other hand, if it makes you not sleep at night because you're so worried about it, then we need to think in a different way. So we feel in a different way and we behave in a different way. I'll just give an example. My wife and I are hypocrites. We both like giving gifts, and neither of us like receiving gifts. So we set an amount that you can't spend over this, or you can't buy more than one gift. And I have broken that rule, I think, every year since we've been married, but she has abided by it until this year. And this year she bought more presents and spent more money and kind of came in with the anxious thought of, I've chewed you out for spending more than we agreed on, and now I've spent more than we agreed on, and her present that I ordered in the mail isn't even here yet. So it makes you look bad. I'm not really anxious if she'll be disappointed if her present doesn't get here. I'm not really anxious about whether she's okay with the difference in gifts or anything like that. But I do have concern. I don't want her to be unhappy at Christmas because of a silly thing like exchanging gifts. And we both know that about each other. We like giving them. And we both admitted last night we didn't even buy each other a card, which is a first in all of history. Well, I'm not anxious about it, but I really don't want her to be disappointed. And so I think that that's one of the many things that people get concerned about Talking to a fellow this week that his wife had said no presents, and then she got presents that were worth over $200. And so, then at the last minute, he's got to figure out what to do. And he's very concerned about having the girlfriend be happy with the holidays. So the Christmas blues is kind of when you do comparing with the Joneses, not just about the lights outside, but if everybody else is yucking it up and having a good time, or everybody else's family looks very dressed up and decorative like a Hallmark movie, and you don't have that, there are probably some very depressed or anxious or feelings like, I'm just not measuring up. I'm not good enough. I haven't prepared well enough, or I haven't provided well enough. And all those negative thoughts make you feel anxious or down or inadequate. And then instead of going out and celebrating the season, you do isolate, and you do come in and spend all Christmas weekend in bed feeling sorry for yourself instead of being out helping with the Salvation Army ringers or doing something else that would be for other people. So to think about things realistically, then to feel in ways that are appropriate to the situation, and make choices to behave in ways that serve others, and kind of lifts my spirits when I give to other people. So and if people want to write in or ask specific questions, that's fine. I wanted to make certain that there's that relief in sight, that you can just change how you're feeling by changing how you're thinking. And
I interestingly, what you just said, it comes down to a lot of comparison. We compare ourselves. If we didn't compare, we probably wouldn't have a lot of the challenges that we have going into the holidays. I'm trying to think of different scenarios in my mind that can present themselves. And a lot of times with comparison. By the way, if you want to reach us, instant feedback, steve@gmail.com. Got a question for Ray? Any comments or whatever it might be? Is it really about that comparison?
In part, because not only do we compare with others, but we also compare, 2 years ago when I had that good job, I gave all my siblings good presents. Well, now this year I'm unemployed and I'm not getting any presents even from the dollar store. So comparing with your past, but especially, we have friends who his brothers are all millionaires, and, they can't compare and compete with those people who've had such great jobs and earned so much money. So no, they don't necessarily feel inadequate, but they want to compare with how they were doing 25 years ago, and they're doing very well. Are they doing as well as the brothers did 25 years ago? No, but there's no sibling rivalry here. It's just, I accept that they had the jobs that earned the money, and I accept I had the career that didn't earn that much. We should only compare with ourselves in the first place, not other people. And we should compare with kindness. If I compare, you have better headphones than I do. Well, I don't have to be jealous of that, or I don't have to go sell my car and buy a pair of expensive ones. I can just be happy for you that you have nice ones, and I'm content that mine work. So the comparison doesn't help anyone. Well, even if you were taking sandwiches down to the homeless, then, well, I want to compare myself with them. At least not I'm under the bridge with a heroin needle in my arm. Well, if that is the way you want to think about it, maybe you better take another look, and especially about being charitable.
By the way, my headphones are about $42. They're old, and I pride myself on not spending a lot of money, because I'll share with you. When I was growing up, single mom, I didn't have stuff. I made it. I literally built my first mixer. I taught myself electronics because I wanted to get into radio. So I built a mixer, which I used to steal my sister's turntable, so I'd have two so I could mix as a DJ. And I used to make up tapes, and that's how I got my first job. So at 17. So for all of that, I go on a cheap. Whatever I can do. If you can do it for less, or if I can make it, why spend money on it? We do have We have Ken checking in from Trumbull, Connecticut. He says, my brother-in-law is a challenge and we don't see eye to eye. We also often fight when the families get together. Do you have any suggestions?
Yes.
Hmm.
First of all, before you get to the family get together, get some time in forgiveness. So I want to forgive myself for being involved in those fights, and I want to forgive him for being in those fights. And then this year, when I go, I'm going to focus on what I can give. So if he says something inappropriate, or if he does something inappropriate, I'm going to give him a little grace. I'm going to think maybe he's struggling with some stuff that I don't know about. And so I want to look at his behavior with kindness. If I was him, I would want Ken to be kind to me. That was the name of the person, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
So one of the things that is so necessary to deal with anxiety and depression is to get out of your own head and have enough empathy to look at it from the other person. And especially, I hope these aren't physical fights, but to look at it from the other person's perspective. Why would it be such a big deal to this relative to want to have a fight at Christmas, for heaven's sake? You'd want to be using your imagination. Now, what must be going on with him that he would choose this time, this place, this season to have this sort of conflict? And maybe I want to avoid conflict. If it's not life or death, why should we fight this out over the holiday table? And I can't control what he says or does, but I can control me. If I look at him, that's the old thing that hurting people hurt people. Well, if he's hurting, I want to show compassion instead of get the best of him or dominate, or I'm going to win again this year. No, you lose if you engage in that kind of thing. And you wouldn't say it out loud necessarily that I feel sorry for you, so I'm going to be compassionate. But you would notice that this is somebody that has something else going on than the Christmas spirit. So what could I say or do? What could I be or have? What could I give or share that would make this Christmas the highlight of all of them? I want to set it up that when we go home from the Christmas event, wow, we're super happy with what happened there. You begin with the end in mind. If we go out shaking hands, hugging and kissing the family members, then we know we've had a success. But it means being unselfish.
I love it how you said that, where we look at what they're going through, because we just assume they're just trying to get at us and we're just trying to get back at them in the conversation. A lot of times it's politics, so it's one up, going back and forth. But if you are very docile and the other person is more combative, maybe there's a reason that they are, and we have to look deeper into that. We have Jamie from Nashville, says, I recently got divorced and don't have a lot of family. I'll be alone part of the holiday. How do I get through it?
Great question. Well, I would hope that, Jamie, you can get through it by remembering actually you're not alone. Because this Christmas, like every Christmas, my grandparents are going to be in my heart. My parents are going to be in my heart. When we give these gifts, when we sing these songs, when we eat this special Christmas food, there's a whole bunch of ancestors of mine that come to the table with me. So first of all, I'm not alone. Second of all, you got this. If there's something new, the divorce has changed the way you do things. Okay, it's different, but it was different when you quit wearing diapers. It was different when you walked instead of crawled, and it's different when you go through a Christmas that's part-time alone. If some of the Christmas you get to spend with your children and you get to see their joy, well, take photographs, take videos of them giggling, and then when you are alone, relive those moments. It doesn't have to just be a one-time experience. And the other part, in getting ready for the holidays, back to the same question as with Ken, how do I focus on what I can give? I'm not just there to, I'm alone, I want to feel sorry. No, I want to go and make somebody's day. When this Christmas event is over, I want them to say, I'm so glad Jamie was here.
Hmm. Somebody also said to me too, in a similar situation like this, um, they said, just picture it as it's just another day because we put so much into it. Oh my gosh, it's once a year, it's Christmas, and some people may be alone, but if you view it just another day, it's okay.
It is. And if you don't want to be alone, there are churches that are open and having different kinds of events, sometimes even with children in plays that make everybody laugh and enjoy things. You can't watch a children's Christmas program or holiday without noticing some kids who are having a very uncomfortable time, and it gives comedy. And the other part of tradition, we do watch those old movies. So we had a grandson over and watched the Christmas Chronicles with Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a family tradition. We've done that every year since the movie came out. And no, I'm not alone. I'm with Santa. He's my friend. I like him. And at the end of that movie, when Goldie Hawn looks at him and knows that he's been a little naughty during Christmas Eve, the way she looks at him, the way she smiles at him. Yeah, if I'm going to be alone, I want to be with somebody who smiles like that.
Nice. Yeah. It's a challenging time, unfortunately, for many. Any other thoughts, in terms of what we're talking about here, so far, between Ken and Jamie, conflict, isolation, what other situations might come up?
Well, I think the worst one is self-judgment. I'm not bringing enough. I'm not doing enough. My food's not special enough. This other member of the family's gourmet cook and I'm not. And anytime you have that question, am I good enough? Am I measuring up? What if I don't do things right? Those are all the voices of anxiety. The reason I wrote Anxiety Quest is to take the journey from that stinking thinking to where there is peace and joy every day, not just on Christmas. Yes, it is another day, and Christmas Eve and the day after Christmas are sometimes crazy times returning presents or trying to get the wrapping paper when it's 50% off or something. But they are just events to get through. And if you begin with the end in mind, what do I want it to look like when Christmas Eve is done or Christmas is done? What do I want to feel? And what do I want others to feel because I was with them? And that's where the empathy kicks in. I want to use my imagination and think about those feelings of other people and do something about it. I want to take responsibility, like with Ken's brother-in-law. I want to take responsibility. Whatever's going on with him and his aggressiveness, I want to be response able. I want to be able to respond to that, turn the other cheek, make something smile, or even extend that right hand of courtesy and kindness and make him feel welcome. There's no reason to have combative situations at a holiday. And for Jamie, you've been alone before. And I would still say you're never completely alone because you bring all of those other ancestors along with you. But you can be alone without being lonely. You can be alone in your thoughts. Maybe this is the time where you start writing thank you notes or writing to those distant relatives that you can't share a meal with. Maybe it's time to think about other people. Yeah, I'm alone, but there's other people who are lonelier. What can I do for them? So just look at it from a different angle.
I'll tell you, my Thanksgiving was different this year. Long story short, my daughter asked, and I had some plans. She said, can we just hang together? She texted me from the other room.
Maybe when she was afraid to look you in the eye and disappoint you.
And she's 15. That's how she does it.
Okay.
And she said, can we just have our own little Thanksgiving and we'll get Chinese food? And I'm like, sure. But I'll tell you, that was all great. But in the evening, I was sitting on the couch and I started journaling and I started thinking. That was fantastic. I never take the time to do any of that. And it was just a moment where I was like, all right, this is good. All right. So it's Thanksgiving. Could have been doing this, could have been doing that, got invited, blah, 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 whatever. What we did was great. And I had that, what you just said, alone time, but you're never alone. You have you,
Yeah,
right?
right. Well, and now you have that Thanksgiving memory with her. Maybe I want to sneak off somewhere during the Christmas season and let's go shopping together, or let's go get a coffee. Or I want to talk about some of the Christmases when you were a little girl and when you got that first Barbie doll, and play around with the idea of Christmas past, because there's some delightful memories there.
Yeah. It's, it doesn't have to look like what you think it's going to look like. It could
No,
change in a second. Oh, wait, you could be driving down the street and you could have plans. And then you see a church and it looks like they're, helping people out. You could make a turn and change the day and change somebody's life
yep,
or
perhaps
many.
forever. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are other ways of looking at things. And so if you get stuck in me, myself, and I thinking, you want to shake that off. Okay, what are other people in the family who aren't going to be here doing? Who can I call? Who can I FaceTime? Who can I just send a little note that I remember that Christmas when I was 8, or what you did for me that Christmas when mom was sick. There are those memories that can be shared. And one of the reasons I want to be together with family is I want to talk about those old days. And they will nod their head too. Yeah, I do remember that time when we hung our stockings on the back of chairs. So
Mm.
that really did happen when I was a kid. And my brothers and sister will remember that, and they will be glad that we have those common memories that celebrate that we grew up with love. We didn't grow up in a palace. We didn't grow up with thousands of presents under the Christmas tree, but we grew up with love. And when you share that time together to share those memories and bring them back into the present, there was joy then. There was connection. We knew each other better when we were all in school together than as we're spread out to the four corners of the country now. It's nice to think that we have a shared history that bonds us, because you can just do that. Remember the time, and you can do that when you're alone. Oh, I remember the time when grandma, and then you're not alone. You're enjoying that movie in your mind of what happened back then. And we're not victims. Jamie, if this is your first Christmas as a divorcee, sorry, but what's another way of looking at it? Well, now I have the freedom to shop or watch old movies or do whatever I want, and I can still be happy. I still belong. I am still connected to people from my present and the past. Excuse me. So the victimization or learned helplessness that comes with a bad feeling, that's from stinking thinking. And you can change your mind in an instant. Just like you said, pull into that church event and do something about it.
Because you can. We have free will. We can make those changes, whatever
Yes,
they're going to be. Anxiety Quest is a workbook that you designed to help people get through a lot of this. There's nothing like it. There really isn't. And it's available. I'm sure you could have it shipped out pretty fast, right?
right. Well, and that's the deal. DrRaySmith.com. That's where you find these videos that we've done, and that's where you can see the book and the workbook. There's a Kindle edition, there's an Audible book, and in the next few weeks, there's going to be a course on Anxiety Quest, because if you could just listen to the book and get some ideas to change your thinking, that's great. If you need to dive into it a little deeper, maybe the workbook would help elicit some more of your thoughts and feelings and the ability to argue against the stinking thinking. And this course is going to be kind of the deep dive into it. There are people with different levels of anxiety. And there are some people, oh, okay, it's another Christmas. We got to be together. We hope people don't get drunk. And there are other people that are just so impaired by anxiety that they're going to need this course because it's more heavy duty.
Yeah.
And the other offer at the end of each of these books, do you want to have coaching and work from what strengths you have now into the future? Do you need counseling? Well, we can do telehealth and we can have counseling one-on-one. And I have intensives where people come to town for a week and really make big progress. I've had invitations to go to other places where people wanted to do some more intense work. And so ask and you shall receive. If your moods are pretty dark, then we can do something about it. I'm here to help.
Yep. And for that, I thank you. Always great talking with you, Ray. You're very relatable and topical. This is what people are dealing with, and anxiety in many different shapes and forms now more than ever. So I appreciate you. It's drraysmith.com. Thank you again, and a happy holiday to you and your family.
And to you. I hope you get to have just as special a moment as you did at Thanksgiving.
I will.
You will. There's lots of options.
And
okay.
You too. All right. Be well.
See you next week. Be well. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.